The whole issue of North Korea has been buried beneath all the headlines of the day, but it popped back up yesterday. And joining us to discuss what's going on in North Korea, what's going on between North Korea and the United States, good friend of the program, the Senior Director of Korean Studies at the Center for National Interest. It's Harry Kazianis. Harry, welcome back to the show. How are you today?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing great. Glad to have you back on. Though it seems like every time we have you back on nowadays, it's because there's a flare-up. Something has happened in North Korea. Before we get to the actions that were taken yesterday, Harry, kind of catch everybody up because, as I mentioned before, I just brought you on. We haven't heard a lot about North Korea lately. You know, ever since the meeting at the DMZ between President Trump and Kim Jong-un, there hasn't been much going on, at least in the headlines.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, if you're just tuning into this now and say you weren't paying attention for about a month, you'd think all is well. You'd think Donald Trump crossed into North Korea, the doves fly over, world peace is here. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Where this broke apart, Chad, is the North Koreans put out a statement about 10 days ago claiming that President Trump made a promise to Kim that they would not do something called joint military exercises. Long story short, us in South Korea do drills all the time to make sure our militaries are prepared for conflict. Not necessarily against North Korea, but just in general. The North Koreans hate this. It drives them nuts. It's not rational in any sense of any sort of explanation. But what happened is North Korea said that they would not continue on with talks or basically threatened that if they did these drills. The United States and South Korea are going to go forward with these drills. Donald Trump has not promised that. And yesterday they tested 2 missiles to show their displeasure. Very common. This is what they always do, unfortunately, and it's a shame.
Well, and Harry, you know, it seemed as though things were kind of moving in the right direction with the U.S. in North Korea. Where are we right now? Is this just North Korea, you know, being I guess in the world, in a world of politics and in the world of leaders, is this them acting like children, or are things starting to fall apart between the peace, I guess, between North Korea, South Korea, and the United States?
Well, there's definitely cracks in this process. I mean, I think it's completely irrational for North Korea to expect the United States and South Korea to never train their militaries ever, or North Korea flips out. Right. I mean, let's look at North Korea. They train their military all winter long in very complex drills. So there's a little bit of hypocrisy there. The only thing I could think that would save this at this point is if Donald Trump goes back on Twitter and says, look, hey, Kim Jong-un, you know, if you're afraid of these military exercises, fine, we'll stop them as talks are going. But if the North Koreans won't give a date, they won't agree to an agenda, they won't agree to where we're going to meet, forget it. It's just not worth it at that point.
Is this something that could pop back up and start dominating headlines? You know, I think as far as world affairs go, everyone's been so focused on the Iranians that they've kind of forgotten about North Korea.
Oh, absolutely. I think where this goes is this. I think the North Koreans will probably test more missiles in the next week or so because these joint drills are supposed to go from August 5th to the 22nd. The North Koreans aren't going to test a missile during the drills because they're afraid of escalation. So look for them to test maybe 1 or 2 more missiles in the next week. But after August 22nd, I wouldn't be surprised if they tested a bigger missile after that, especially around Labor Day. They love doing those military tests during U.S. holidays. Sort of to embarrass us. So I don't think this is over, not by a long shot.
Well, okay, and so what is, besides calling off these military drills, what is North Korea aiming for here? What do they want at the end of the day?
2 things. They want the sanctions removed because there's no way that Kim Jong-un can modernize his economy and give really the North Korean people anything without doing that. The sanctions are doing a lot of damage. The other thing is they want security guarantees. They want to feel like that they're not going to get turned into Iraq or Afghanistan or Libya. And that's going to be a hard thing to say to them. I mean, it is a cruel dictatorial regime that has concentration camps. It would be hard for any administration just to give that sort of blanket guarantee. So I think both sides are trying to figure a way out of this mess. But if North Korea is going to keep pushing the envelope, essentially putting their own maximum pressure on Trump, it's going to be very hard to avoid some sort of nasty situation going forward.
Visiting with Harry Kazianis here on the Chad Hasty Show. We always hear about the United States, North Korea, South Korea. What are other nations doing? Are they doing anything? Obviously, China's always involved one way or the other. But are any other countries putting pressure on North Korea? Are they trying to open up diplomacy like President Trump has? What's everybody else in the world doing?
Well, the Japanese have tried very hard. Shinzo Abe, a very, very tough conservative, actually went against his own party in some respects, a lot of his own nation, to say that he would have open-ended talks with Kim Jong-un. So, there's that, which I think is a very big game changer. Unfortunately, if we look at China, the Chinese have not done much to help the situation. Sadly, they're actually the ones that control all the sanctions on North Korea. The reason why is because 90% of North Korea's exports go through China. So when people are talking about this big trade spat between the United States and China, North Korea is in the background because so many of us here in Washington are afraid that essentially China would use North Korea as a way to sort of put pressure on the United States. So unfortunately, when we're looking at North Korea, there's all of these different factors that are mixed into a much bigger puzzle in Asia, and it's challenging.
Harry, are you surprised? And I know we're early on in the 2020 process, but it doesn't seem like any of the candidates, at least on the Democrat side, are offering up any other ideas when it comes to North Korea. Are you surprised by that?
I'm not. Even especially like the front runner on the Dems, Joe Biden. Joe Biden should not even touch North Korea because it was his in Obama's administration that put forward this whole thing called strategic patience with North Korea, which essentially the Obama administration stuck its head in the sand, did absolutely nothing, and for 8 years, the North Koreans built up their nuclear and missile capabilities. And this is why Donald Trump has to face this problem. So if you have an actual election where it's Biden versus Trump, I guarantee you, Chad, Trump is going to use North Korea and literally bash Joe Biden over the head with it because it's so clear that this is a problem the Obama administration left on the table for Trump, and now he's got to figure out how to fix it.
Yeah, I'm visiting with Harry Kazianis here on the Chad Hasty Show. So you think they're going to fire off a few more missiles? How far could they go, in your opinion? How far could they go before the Trump administration says, okay, we're done playing nice with you guys?
Well, the dangerous situation is we go back to the days of 2017 where the North Koreans test one of those ICBMs or long-range missiles that can hit the United States. What they could show the world is something called heat shield technology. In other words, when you fire one of these missiles, a warhead comes down through the atmosphere and hits a target. The North Koreans have never put a warhead on a missile and demonstrated that. So not saying they're going to detonate the nuclear weapon, but to literally put a dummy warhead and actually go through the atmosphere and prove it works. If they do that, all bets are off. And we will go back to hearing phrases like all options are on the table. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but if the trend here is very dangerous, and it's back as a realm of possibility, and that's scary in and of itself.
Yeah, and Harry, it just shows. It's almost like, you take a couple steps forward, you take 5 steps back with North Korea. That this administration, whether people agree with every step they've taken on North Korea or not, it's a much different approach than any other administration I can remember in recent history, where there is some outreach and there is some groundwork that has been tried to be laid. And even, with the president crossing into North Korea, a historic moment, it's almost like it didn't matter because now we're slipping back into the same old with North Korea.
Yeah, and look, this president has done everything he possibly could. He's taken, I never thought in my lifetime I would ever see a U.S. president sit down with the North Korean dictator, never mind actually go into North Korea. So it's very clear that President Trump is willing to take big risks to not only his reputation, but the 2020 election. He knows that Democrats are going to use that against him, but he's still willing to try. So the question I think we all have to think of is, does Kim Jong-un think that he can just wait out the Trump administration, and just keep pushing forward with his nuclear program, and that somehow the world will just accept him as a nuclear power? I don't think so. Even the South Koreans aren't on board with that approach, and that's their brethren, that's their countrymen. So I think Kim Jong-un has to do a little bit of thinking here and think, Donald Trump is going to be his best partner for peace, and if he doesn't accept that, we're in for a very interesting couple years.
But before I let you go, have they, the North Koreans, have they destroyed any of their stockpile? Have they destroyed any of their capability when it comes to nuclear weapons?
No, it's actually even gotten better, to tell you the truth. I mean, from different reports that are out there, they can build a new nuclear warhead every 6 weeks. So as this is sort of built up and built up, their capabilities are getting better. And just because, Chad, they're not testing missiles in the atmosphere, don't think their scientists are working harder to develop better missiles with better capabilities. So actually, as time goes on, their capabilities just keep getting better.
Harry Kazianis, Center for the National Interest, Senior Director of Korean Studies. Always a pleasure to have you on the program, and I'm sure we'll visit again soon.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. That's Harry Kazianis here on the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk, KFYO.